Your project scope is one of the most important documents to get going on your project. And you want to do this right. So to get started, you need two things. You need to get your completed stakeholder register, which you've previously filled out. We cover this in another lesson. And you want to get a copy of the scope template because you're going to be filling this out, and this is going to ultimately be what your scope is. Next step is you want to take that scope template and write up a rough draft of what the scope statement is. This is important because remember, some of the stakeholders you're dealing with may not understand the purpose of project scope. And by coming into them with a draft, it makes it clearer what your goals are, what you're trying to do, and it helps set the stage. So now you've got your rough draft written, and now you're going to go out in the next step and you're going to be meeting with your stakeholders. You're going to use your scope draft and sit down with them and get their inputs on the project and in their views what should be included and excluded in this project. And when you're doing that, you want to be taking detailed notes, because then in this next step, you're going to then take those notes with your rough draft of your project scope and you're going to polish it up. You're going to take those inputs from the stakeholder and you're going to add them into your rough draft, and now you're getting close to your final draft of your project scope. I like to, in this next step, take my project scope statement, this updated one, and sit down with my team members because they're a valuable resource into helping you realize what's realistic and what's not. On a small project, you may not need to do this, but anything medium to large, I always like to sit down with my team members and make certain what we're trying to do is realistic. The next step, now that you've gotten your inputs from your team, is you're going to take this updated scope document and you're going to go and sit down and review it with your stakeholders. In an ideal world, you'll be able to sit down with all your stakeholders at once. Chances are you're going to have to interview them separately. So again, you're trying to close the loop and make certain that their needs and desires are captured in the project scope. Assuming that that's all successful, then the next step is what we call sign-off. In a more complicated, more expensive project, you may actually go through a sign-off project where people physically sign off that it's okay to move ahead with the project. In other projects, it may be sufficient just to send out an email, making certain everybody's on board and sort of getting a confirmation from email, yes, this makes sense, let's move ahead with the project. And once you've done that, now you've got a nice project scope statement, everybody's on the same page, and you can move ahead with your project and be successful.